Forbes reports that you are one of just 18 self-made female billionaires in the United States. On the path to that, did you hit any proverbial glass ceilings?
I mean, I think I've hit many. I think a lot of times I don't pay attention. When I first started the company, my parents said, buckle your seatbelt and thicken your skin, and I think that was great advice.
Why have you struggled with the word ambition through your life?
Well, it's funny, I didn't know I struggled with it through my life. When I first started the company, it was the first article written on me and what we were doing. And my friend called me and she said, I love the article, but you got shy when he said you're ambitious. And I said, yeah, you know, it's funny. I did shrink away from that word. And there's a negative connotation associated with ambitious women.
That was back in 2004.
Yes.
There was a New York Times profile on you. What were you thinking? Why was ambition negative in your mind then?
Well, I don't think it was a thought process. It just seemed like it was a very negative term when addressing a woman. I knew that there was that out there, and I wanted to change that desperately. I thought, wow, that's just not okay.
You recently told New York Magazine that there was a, quote, lot of eye rolling when I started my business. So I was reading that and thinking, Tory, what does that mean? Does that mean gender discrimination because you're a woman? Does that mean a perception that, oh, I'm just going to start a little brand? What is that? What was the eye rolling?
I felt there was definitely a few pats on my back. And when I went to fundraise, I said I wanted to start a global international business so that I could start a foundation.
When have you been underestimated?
Oh gosh, I'm sure many times, but I think in the beginning of the company, as I said, people thought it was a quote vanity project. I didn't really know what that meant, and certainly when you start a business, you work so hard, the hours are so long that for someone to say that, it's a bit ironic.
A Babson study from 2014 shows that women-led tech companies specifically get less than 5% of VC funding. Less than 5%. Why is this happening in 2016? Why is funding so hard, seemingly, for female entrepreneurs to come by?
Well, considering it's half the population, it's kind of shocking.
Yeah.
I think that's a scary statistic. It has to change.
You've called access to capital a systematic impediment for women. What about the system needs to change?
The system, I think we all need to collectively say that there need to be more women in leadership roles. There needs to be more women on boards, and that's something that I'm working on here. We have to be able to give people an environment that makes it easy to have a family and also be in business.
So the way that, say, Germany has tackled it is they've now instituted quotas for their boards, to say you have to have X amount of women on your board. I mean, are we at the point, Tory, where this needs to be government mandated?
I mean, I think that's hard to do because you also want the best person for your board, and you can't just look at gender. It has to be the best person at what they do. That said, I think women have a very different perspective, and it's a miss if you don't have women on your board.
Are women CEOs treated differently?
It's a shockingly low number. So yes, they're treated differently, I'm sure. I try not to focus on that. There is definitely sexism, and that has to stop as well. And you see that it takes shape in all forms.
Let's talk about family leave. We have a first in this election. Both of the candidates of the major parties, the Republican and the Democrat, both want paid family leave through the government. How big is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's essential. I think at some point the two parties have to come together, and that would be a wonderful thing. If there's things they can agree on, that's great. And family leave is a great start.
A lot of people in this country don't have that, and they rely on the government, and the government doesn't provide it. It looks like that's going to change.
It has to change, and certainly we give 3 months here as well, and that's wonderful that we can do that. But there has to be that in place, and that's something. Or else, how do you expect women to be moms and have a career, or if the father is the caretaker? We do it for men and women.
Let's dive into the foundation. When you started this company now more than a decade ago, it was part and parcel of your vision, right? Start a company, do well, be profitable, use that power and money to start a foundation. What's the goal of the work you're doing on that front?
So we started a foundation to empower women entrepreneurs in the United States. And I think at some point we want to be global, but for now, there's so much to do here now. When I went to fundraise, I said I wanted to start a global international business so that I could start a foundation. And in retrospect, I don't really know if I knew what that meant at the time, but I did say it, and I was also told never to say social responsibility and business in the same sentence.
Right, never say philanthropy and business
No.
in the same sense. That's so odd because the two do and should go hand in hand.
Well, they do and should, and I think now, currently, it's much more, it's commonplace, and I think that's so important. When you think about millennials, that's what they care about.
Absolutely. Have you seen that in your own hiring practices?
I
That
definitely.
They care more what a brand stands for and is than necessarily their paycheck?
Well, I've seen that our foundation is good for the bottom line, and that's attracting people to want to work here. It's good for our employees, but then also for our customers.
You've been able to give out $20 million in low-cost loans?
Well, with Bank of America, we have a great partnership, and in the last 2 years, we've given over $20 million out, and it's averaging out to over $1 million a month.
What have you found that female entrepreneurs need to actually get off the ground and succeed?
I mean, first of all, I think they need confidence, and they need to believe in themselves, and that's something we talk to them a lot. We mentor them, and we do education also, but I think just the simple low-cost capital is making the difference, and I think that we're reaching incredible entrepreneurs. I'm inspired by them. I hear their stories. They often have 2 jobs, and it's amazing.
What is the obligation of a corporate citizen today, and how is it different than a decade ago?
Well, I think what's interesting about our company is that we knew that we wouldn't be able to start a foundation right away financially, but to have it part of the business plan and part of the conversation and the DNA is so important. And giving back comes in all forms. So I think there is an expectation of social responsibility today that there wasn't. Traditionally, you look at companies and they set up their foundation 20, 30 years after their success. But I think when you start earlier, and if we can be a role model to startups, that would be a great thing. It's a win-win for everyone.
What do you hope the foundation can become? I mean, you've already given away a huge amount of money in loans. What's your dream for it?
Well, I think if we could be that source for women entrepreneurs globally eventually, and that's something that I would love to do is be a global foundation. Right now, the United States is a great starting point. We have a lot to do here, but I think if we could be an inspiration for women to embrace ambition, to understand that they can get loans, to enter some of our education programs, and really feel great about what they're doing and build their confidence, that would be what I would wish for.
Confidence is a word that you keep coming back to. What boosted your confidence the most on this journey?
You know, I was lucky enough to have parents that, I mean, I would get maybe a B- or even a C+, and they'd be like, great job. And I would say, Mom, that's not very good. Like, I would actually harder on myself than
so was I.
Yeah, so they made me believe that I could do anything. And I think I was lucky enough to grow up in an environment like that. That's not often the case. And I think women need a confidence boost, and in general. And certainly that's something that I see extraordinary entrepreneurs, and I'm amazed. And I just want to have them see that in themselves.